It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, November 12th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is going to take the win. But I kind of wish we could win some games in regulation.
Yeah, that was a wild, crazy, sloppy bananas game.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit fanduel.com to get started. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, we are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm not sure where to start because there's so much that happened in that game. Of course, Matvei Michkov checking back into the lineup, I think, it is where you have to begin, just because it felt like a little bit of a revenge game, but maybe he tried a little too hard at moments.
Yeah, he was letting his temper get the best of him. I mean, he was going at it with Eklund in the first
Mm,
period, and then he went at it with Celebrini and gave them a power play and overtime. Eklund was asked about Michkov, about him being like this feisty guy, and he goes, "I guess he is." You know, he doesn't know him; he's never played against him. So,
right.
because they would normally like have played, at least in World Juniors by now, because they're two athletes like that. But it doesn't happen. So, yeah, this was the first time all these young guys matched up, and he had a good game. Obviously, he wasn't on the third line for long, so that was a
Correct.
charade. And I felt like point wise, he's fine, right? That was a very good game. But yeah, he can't let his emotions get the best of him. That was the biggest thing in that game. Now, did he get used any differently? No. Did he play more defensive? I didn't see it. So, again, he played a good game, and I'll leave it at that.
Right. It was good that his goal was 5-on-5, first off.
Yes.
Uh, Second of all, I think that play very specifically is almost like identical to what he did in the KHL, right? A
Yes.
little bit of cherry picking and
Hmm.
then off to the races and has a great shot, right?
Right.
That
Yeah, no
that's a,
question.
that's a lot of what he did. So it was a very familiar sort of play to him. So I think it was good that it was 5-on-5 for sure. I want to talk about some of the other lineup changes just because there's always some controversy. Mitchkov is back in, but Morgan Frost sits.
Yeah, I think that hurt him in the overtime. Without having Morgan Frost in the overtime, you're missing probably
Well,
your
it hurt
second.
not having Mitchkov for the
Well,
first
that's
2 minutes.
obvious, right? But then it hurts not
Right.
having Frost too, because he's always one
Mhm.
of their two or three best players in overtime, always. And so, yeah, I feel like that was something. I don't know how the game ended up, but I know after the first period, Celebrini was at 60% on faceoffs. I think Frost not being there was a factor, factored in with that as well. So he was missed. People can say what they want, but even though he may not be scoring like he's supposed to score, he still does other things on the ice. And I just feel like his scoring will come. It's always come. But scratching him, I don't think does anything. I don't.
Yeah, I think, Couturier and Paling were pretty solid at the dot, but I think Cates and Lawton struggled a little bit
They
with the
did.
the matchups that they got there. But um, Jamie Drysdale being out because he's injured officially on IR gave Andre that additional opportunity. We talked specifically about that on yesterday's show, not
Yes.
knowing that he was going to be on IR, but the fact that Andre was getting Drysdale's minutes or started to in the previous game. And I think he would have regardless, to be honest.
No, I do too. Look, he was their best defenseman, And when they start admitting that, at least they're playing him on the top power play. I'm not sure they should play him on the top pairing every game. You can do it against the Sharks. I don't think you can get away with that with a lot of teams. I think Risto should be back up there. But he was their most efficient defenseman. And Risto had a good game defensively. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Um, but Andre was their best defenseman. He just was.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference in what he brings to the team.
Yeah, Eric Johnson joked after the game that, Andre got a promotion because
Yeah.
he's clearly better than being on a line with Eric Johnson, which I
Right.
thought was just very, cool of Johnson to say,
It
especially
was.
scored a goal in the game and, was a big part of the play, I thought. But, Emile Andre and Travis Konecny each had 11 shot attempts in this game, and so it was very noticeable, obviously, that Andre was, keeping the puck on his stick and taking those shots, and so to match up with Travis Konecny, who took every possible shot on the planet in that game, I think that says a lot about where Andre's confidence is with the puck.
It does, and it also just says that, yeah, if there's a shot attempt and if nobody's gonna take it, he's gonna take it. So he's gonna fill that void, but that void needs to get filled by other players too. Like Tippett was on the power play was like passing it. It's like, dude, you're in that
Right.
spot to shoot. So, but he filled the void, and I think that's an important thing. And look, Travis Konecny could have had like 4 goals. Like it's nuts. He shot that one puck into Vanacek's pad. He had an open net, and then he scores on a power play goal where he's falling down. Like there was no explaining his game tonight. It was just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just the open net was the one that got me the most, but,
Right.
yeah, I think, for Travis Konecny, I think at least there's, like, a concerted offensive pressure going on with him and with
Yeah.
that line, and so for 1 game, if he's snake bit like this, or 1 or 2 games, it's okay. You just
Right.
can't have that happen, long term.
Yeah. But speaking of snake bitten, at this point, Joel Farabee is just officially snake bitten. Like it's just bad.
I mean, he obviously have scored recently, but I think in this game, yes,
Yeah.
it kind of came back.
It did come
Um,
back.
I, I think Ryan Paling looked pretty solid for
Yeah,
his
he was
first
solid.
game back
I mean, again, a lot of guys lapse defensively. Like the second period is still a
in the second
disaster.
period.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's a disaster. But even towards the end of the first, like San Jose did a lot of things to carry the play in the first, but just weren't rewarded. Got rewarded for it in the second. And I got to tell you, I almost said to the guy next to me that it feels like this game's going to go to overtime. And sure enough, Goudreau scores that goal. They let him back in the game, the Flyers. They did. And they have to work on that because not that the Sharks are a horrific team, but they're not a good team. And, they definitely play down to their level.
right. And going back to Owen Tippett,
Hmm.
because I think talking about his shot attempts, he did have 8 shot attempts. Other than TK and Andre, he had the next highest number of shot attempts on the team. None of them were blocked. 75% of his shots, so 6 of the 8 were on goal, and he just couldn't get them to go. I think
Well, there was no deception. Like I know one was straight down the middle. I know one was
right.
straight down the left side. I think the ones where he tried to do something, they hit the back wall. He had one where he was bearing down on the net. He shot it over the net, I think. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and in that second period, obviously that's when the Sharks got back into it. Their
Yeah.
first goal I thought was worse than the second goal from a Flyers defensive standpoint, just because there was some laziness on that long change, and it was Tippett specifically that kinda dumped the puck and skated lazily to the bench, and,
Yeah.
the Sharks had all that speed. Eklund was out there and just, picked up
Oh,
and
yeah.
he got that assist on both of those 2 goals.
He
So
did.
I think there's something there that they just have to button up in order to prevent these kind of goals against.
Well, not to just blame Tippett. There was the too many men on the ice, and
Oh, for sure.
with about 2:50 to go in the third, they completely had a late change, giving the Sharks a chance to score there. So again, this is something, and this has happened this year I would say, in 2 or 3 other games recently. So they do need to button it up because it's going to start costing them
Yeah, at least one
even
thing
more than it did. Yeah.
we cannot complain about at all is Samerson in net. I thought it was another solid
Yeah,
game
it was a good game.
for him.
Really good game. There was a couple of big saves. They had
Yes.
multiple chances. Maybe that was in the second period. Multiple chances on him. He stopped them. Uh, yeah, he made some big stops. The short side goal wasn't his best, but that's all right. I mean, everybody has a goal like that once in a while. But no, he was he. I mean, I'm not going to say he saved the game for him, but he definitely helped keep them in the lead for a while until they weren't.
And just one final note, seems like we don't need Nick Delorier out there to protect Matvei Michkov. We got 2 fights from other guys, doing the work.
Yes, but the problem is, and I spoke to people about this, when Nick Seeler goes off for 5 minutes, the Flyers defense is definitely more susceptible, and 2 goals went in. So I always say, is it worth it when he goes off for a fight?
That's
That's my,
fair.
yeah.
That is 100% fair, but if the protection issue is what you're talking about,
No, and that's a part of it. I get it. It's just
yeah.
I wish other guys would do it and not like leave it up to Nick. But yeah, that's fine. I mean, Eric
Well, thanks,
Johnson.
EJ. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's better if Eric Johnson fights. No offense, but they're not going to miss him as much.
Right. Well, I will say that the Lehigh Valley Phantoms are missing Emil Andre, and they're going to be
Oh
missing
yeah,
Emil Andre for the
the whole
rest of the
year.
season,
Oh yeah.
as far as we're concerned. But we're going to talk about those very Phantoms and how they're doing without Richard and without Andre, coming up next. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote has a licensed insurance agent group that are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. You invest so much time to take care of yourself to be the healthiest, best version of you. SelectQuote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. If you're in good health, they work with carriers that can get you same day coverage for up to $5 million, no medical exam required. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Select Quote, they shop, you save.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I'm going to say take the Indianapolis Colts over the New York Jets this week on the money line. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
On tomorrow's show, we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into Matvei Michkov's season so far. Russ did a look into the numbers, and we are going to get into it and really see how his season is progressing. Plus, we're going to answer your mailbag questions, so get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or message us on any of your favorite socials at Locked On Flyers or comment on our YouTube channel. So this week's Phantoms Tuesday report, real fascinating week for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms here because they got an overtime win, a regular win, and an overtime loss this week. And it put them into 4th place in the Atlantic, which is higher than they've been in a long
In a
time.
while, yeah, this is good.
Yeah, they're on a 6-game point streak. They've won 4 of their last 5. They're 5-3, 2-1 overall. And like it's interesting because that's all very good. But then like you talk to Lappy and he's like, "Well, we're not playing our best here, but we're finding ways to win," which is like one of those things that like is also important. Like even when you're not playing well, to find ways to win, it is really important to rack up those points and to find the nuggets of what good you're doing to kind of carry that forward, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the tough part about this game. It's like I think it's good when a coach says that, but from a team perspective, they're getting the points, they're winning the games. From a coach perspective, maybe they're not carrying out everything or doing it exactly the way he wants. You know, Sometimes the coach has to just acquiesce too. I think sometimes the coach has to realize, hey, this is the team I have, and maybe I have to kind of like change my expectations of what my coaching style is and say, all right, let me try and coach to these guys' strengths a little bit more and not try and get them and keep pounding that same message. Because at some point, you could they could start losing because of that reason, and then they don't win these games. You know what I mean? They don't win these close ones, and then you start to have a problem. So I think there's a fine line to trying to get your message across, and I think in like another 5 games, you got to just deal with it.
Right, and I think, he had to make some adjustments this week, right? Because
Yeah,
they traded Ronnie Attard, so there was an adjustment on the blue line. Ben Gleason arrived. He didn't check in until the last game of the weekend against Utica. But he didn't really have much time to practice with the team, so he's not really fully integrated into the system there yet. He did get his first point as a Phantom with an assist on a Samu Tuomaala goal, so that was good for him to get on the
yeah,
board his first game in. But as far as and Anthony Richard is obviously up with the Flyers, so that kind of changed the center depth for the Phantoms. And so they did have to make some adjustments there. And I think that probably led to a little bit of why they didn't play up to par in some ways. But, with so many people on that team, it is easy to do a next man up scenario there.
it is, and I think that's a big thing. You know, it seems like the next man up scenario is just what their goaltending is too. None of it's great. It's
But it's there.
they're like identical as far as
They
stats
are.
go, and it's not a good thing. I don't know. Me as like a viewer and just looking at the stats, I am getting so tired of not seeing guys that can't break, 900, a 900 save percentage. Just
Yeah, I think it's 2 good but not great goaltenders,
right.
with the organization in
Somebody's
Lehigh Valley
gotta be
right
a little
now.
better here.
Yeah, I think Makaniemi, like, I'm gonna give him a little bit more of a leash just because, getting used to the new team
That's fair.
and, he has an injury history, and so he hasn't had, like, long stretches of play in a long time, so I think, like, I'm gonna give him a little bit of a leash, but that's kind of the situation there. But I will say, looking at the games that they did play. They split with Wilkes-Barre Scranton as we predicted. They should have won more decisively versus Utica. Utica still has not won a game in tragic form, even though they did fire their coach
Right.
and and get a new one. But they're getting closer because obviously this game went to overtime, but the Phantoms won this one. But with Wilkes-Barre Scranton in particular, the Phantoms have played generally well against them this season so far, but hadn't won a game. And then the one game that they didn't play as well, they wound up winning. So, hockey. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's hockey. I mean, that I agree with that. I'm looking around the AHL, and I'll say this. There is a wide variety of goalies with save percentage, but there are quite a few. There's some of these will be backups, but just so you could see, I'm reading the list, and there's 43 that are over 900 save percentage. Michael Hauser being one of them. You remember him.
Yeah.
Um, so you gotta think, how come the Phantoms don't have one of these guys? Like that's just my feeling on it. Like, as
That's
an
not
example,
how. Well, because they're stuck, because they had to keep Peterson because they made that trade, and then they found Makiniemi and liked him, and they wanted a goaltender that maybe had potential to do more than be in the AHL. I think that's really all it is. It's as simple as that.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, some of these are prospect guys. I get that. Um, but as an example, like, oh, Michael DiPietro. Now, Michael DiPietro's got a 936. Yeah, we're not looking for him necessarily to make it anymore to the NHL. He's on Providence. Like a couple years ago, any team could have had him. It's not like, Vancouver drafted him and he was a high draft pick. They could get a guy like that. They didn't always have to just get a guy like, to me, McAniemi is just like this, long shot of long shots. At least
Well, that's Parker Gahagan, who's with the Royals right now. So, like, they do have somebody in the system like that, but they just
they
have
won't use them.
decided they won't
Yeah.
use him right now with the Phantoms. But
Because it's good
I
to
think
have
it's
one of those
fine.
guys around that has mastered the
Sure.
AHL game, because it really does help your guys, and especially the defense. Because, like, let's take Peterson out of this. Maybe McAniemi's good, maybe he's not. Right now, he's, you know, mid. Maybe he'll get better than that. But while he is mid and he's in there, that's not helping some of the other younger guys that they have either.
Sure. But there's like, I think with the Phantoms, goaltending is kind of like tier C of the things that are of importance to the team right now. I think like looking
That's
at
fair.
how they're constructing the lineup because of the volume of guys that they have is important. And,
That is important.
Lappy has talked about specifically that, you have to play strong all around in your game, not just scoring. You have to have a complete game in order to keep your spot in the lineup. And he's been rotating guys in and out who aren't, up to snuff. And he's talked about Gendron in particular, right? Because Gendron scores goals every time he comes in the game, pretty much, but he does not play defense, right? And he does not get back and he makes mistakes. And that's why he gets sat sometimes because he has to learn these things and he doesn't deserve the ice time yet. But there are some
Okay, but
exceptions
wait,
that,
that is the coach speaking. That's not
yes,
Rachel speaking.
correct,
You know what I mean?
correct.
Yeah, that's Lappy speaking. And I think this is where you sometimes have to look at the team and say, okay, like you have to have a conversation with your whole group. You
Well,
call,
but the
not
second
just,
half to that is
okay,
that there are exceptions to that rule, right? That he may not say it, but there are exceptions. It's Olle
right,
Lycksell, it's Samu Tuomaala, it's Helge Grant. Like there are a core group of guys that he's not going to sit. Garrett Wilson when he's healthy, just because he's the captain. But
right.
like, but there's the fringe around is who he's doing that with, and I think it's important to pay attention to what he's doing with those decisions because like he sat Denoye on Saturday, for
Right.
instance.
Okay. All right. So as an example, like when Gendron was drafted, the odds of him being an NHLer were probably like 25%. So if Gendron's great away from the puck, but he's not playing all the time and his scoring goes down, then he's got 0% chance of getting to the NHL. What's going to get him to the NHL is his speed and his scoring, and he just has to be okay away from the puck. He doesn't have to be great. He doesn't have, you know what I mean? So, like, there's
Well,
going to
and
be a
I think
point where he's
Gendron's
not going
going
to
to be
progress.
in more often. I really
Okay.
do because he's
Because he's
earning
only
it.
going to progress so much in that area. It's just not ever been his area of strength. Maybe when he's 30, he'll be better at it. But we've seen these guys, and his gift is he's fast and he scores. And at some point, but the problem is you can't bring him up on the NHL level if he's fast and he scores because he's got to do other things. That's why Richard's up and a guy like Gendron isn't, as an example.
Right, but Gendron did check into all 3 games, right,
Okay,
this
that's good.
this past weekend. So that's what I'm saying, like, he's
Yeah,
making progress on that front, but that's why Lappy is making the decisions that he is. But we have so much more to talk
we
about.
do.
Olle Lycksell finally got on the board, and there's some special teams considerations to talk about as well. So we're going to do some of that coming up next.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. Prize Picks, the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks invented the flex pay, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if your picks don't hit. And Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are quick, fast, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the app today and use Locked On NHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NHL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, so I want to kick this off right away with Olle Lycksell because he's one of those core guys that isn't going to get sat by Ian LePerrier, and especially so because he's a key part of the scoring for this team, or should be. And with Richard up with the Flyers, like Lycksell had to step up. So he had not scored a goal yet this season prior to this weekend. However, he leads the AHL entirely in shots on goal with 50 in 11 games played. He had 10 shots on goal versus Utica, and God bless him, he finally scored.
He
And
broke
it was the
through, yeah.
game tying goal. It was a play off a face off, really quick shot to tie it up. And the relief on his face was probably like even less than mine, to be honest, but you could just see it. And I feel like this is the moment now, right?
Right.
So now that he's broken through, if he's not gonna get Ronnie Attered, like, he's gotta keep scoring, right?
Yes. Well, it looks like what? 1, 2, 3. He's got 5 points in his last 5 games. So I think he is picking it up. The points are starting to rise. Now
Yeah.
the goals. So I do think there is that hangover effect. You didn't make the team. You thought you were going to. You played with the team last year somewhat. Now you got to pick your game back up, and I think it's starting to get. It's he's picking it up. So I think it'll be okay for Ollie, and I'm glad he did score because he needed to get that monkey off his back.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's in the top 5 on the team in scoring right now, obviously with just the 1 goal and 6 assists so far. Jacob Gaucher leads the team tied with Samu Tuomaala. So that's good that Samu Tuomaala is up there with the team lead right now. But I think that we just need to get more scoring from the top prospects on
Right.
on this team. I think that's just the key right now. So
Yeah.
Tuamala is playing very well. Just take it up a little notch, and especially again with Richard not there. I know it's different positions, but still, like, I think there's a real opportunity here for Tuamala to kind of take control of this team. The other guy that stepped it up is Oscar Eklund, and there was a in-game interview of him during one of these games this weekend where he talked about the fact that he's really now starting to feel more comfortable with the smaller ice. He's
Right.
bought into the system, and lo and behold, the points are starting to show up for him. And so I think that's a good sign that he might be another call up option, should the Flyers need it, along the lines of a Richard, right? If they, for whatever reason, they feel like Lycksell or Tuamala aren't that guy at that moment, I think Eklund is slowly creeping into that conversation.
Yeah, I think by mid-season he could be that guy because he knows how to play the other parts of the game. It's just the offense wasn't quite there. I want to get back to Tuamala for 1 second. Um,
Sure.
he's got to score goals, like period.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
last year, like in 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, he had 26. It's Mestis. I get it. But the reason they drafted this guy is for goal scoring. He's 21. Then last year, he starts off like really, really well, doesn't finish strong, only gets 15 goals. He's got to start breaking the 20, 25 goal mark. And if he doesn't, he's
Right.
never going to play in the NHL.
Absolutely. And so he had an assist on Friday and a goal on Saturday. The goal on Saturday was a really nice play on the rush. It was his first non-power play goal of the season.
That's
So he's
good.
got 4 goals, 3 on the power play,
Okay.
now 1 5 on 5. So he's got to step it up 5 on 5, but
No
continue
question.
to produce on the power play. That's
Yeah.
kind of where where
Right. Power
Tuomaala
play,
is
you
at.
expect him to do well. He's got the big shot, but you're right. 5-on-5 is that area where he's really got to improve.
Right. So now that we're talking about the power play, this is a good opportunity to talk about special teams with the Phantoms because, like, once again, the Phantoms are just unicorns in hockey, as is often the case. So John Snowden is the coach for the power play in Lehigh Valley, and he's doing a very good job of coaching them to produce. They were 3 for 9 for the weekend. They're currently second in the league with a 28.9% power play, which is pretty rock solid, right? However, they allowed 3 shorthanded goals, 1 Friday and 2 Saturday, and they allowed 2 shorthanded goals against Utica. Like, now Utica does have a good power play. That's, like, the only thing they had going for them.
Right.
But nonetheless, like, I think that this attitude that we talked about last week with Lappy saying, "We're gonna allow them to take some risks and let the chips fall." Well, the chips fell. So let's maybe dial it back a wee skitch on the power play so that, they're not giving up shorties so often.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you what's different, what's hitting me on that. When you give up a shorthanded goal on the power play, that's not on the coach. The coach is about the power play structure. The
Yeah,
guys on the ice are the ones that have to not give up the shorties. You know what I mean? They have to keep the puck in
sure.
there. So, I almost want to think that Snowden maybe should, get promoted at some point if he keeps this up.
Right, that's why I'm saying it's just something
I
to
know.
keep an eye on.
I've
Let's
never
see.
heard of an organization promoting like a power play coach in season, but if there was ever a team that needed it, I don't know.
Yeah, they're using the tools they have and the guys they have to find success on the power play
Yeah, it's
thus
good.
far. Let's keep an eye on that. The
Yeah,
penalty kill is only 17th in the league at 82%, which is not as good, but they
no,
did have a very good weekend. They only allowed 1 power play goal in 13
well, that's good.
chances for
That's good.
opponents.
Yeah,
So
that's positive.
that showed some positive progress. So I think that's really important for them to stay focused on. But especially when you're looking for situational play to train these guys to be able to be available for call ups and such, I think it's a good aspect of the game to pay attention to for the fans.
It is. It is. I think we're seeing improvement with this team, and that's good. Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. The Phantoms have another 3-game week this week. They're playing tomorrow, Wednesday, against Wilkes-Barre Scranton again because it's always Wilkes-Barre Scranton.
It's like,
They've
how many times they got to play them?
like a million. They're
Right.
at Springfield again on Friday, and then Hershey comes to town on Saturday. So 3 different teams this weekend, which is kind of
Yeah, they're
unusual.
gonna have to get their
Uh,
points early because Hershey's gonna be tough.
yeah, yeah. The Wilkes-Barre Scranton is hanging with them so far, so
Okay.
we'll see.
All right.
We
Well,
shall
that's
see.
they got to pull some
But
points. Yeah.
yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday with another report to talk about those games and our prospects in Lehigh Valley. We'll be back tomorrow to talk Matvei Michkov and answer your mailbag questions. You can let us know what those are on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
And I'm Russ, and I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.